learning about the coaching mindset. Okay, so that is what is the mindset the coach should have. That is one of our competencies. And what we will do is that we will start with a discussion, because I don't want to do the slides first, because all the content in the slides we already know. So I'd like to start with the discussion first, and then we will go on to the slides, and then we will go on to having a demo. Okay. So the learning outcomes for today is learning how to develop and develop and maintain a mindset that is open, curious, mindful, flexible, and client-centered. Knowing ICF guidelines and practicing with the PCC markers on coach competency embodies a coaching mindset. All right. So I'm just keeping the floor open for discussion. What kind of a mindset should the coach have? Now, all of us have gone through and are very familiar with the coaching process. Okay. We know what is the coaching process. We know that we have to, in the process, connect with our client, build rapport, build trust, get to know each other. Then we go on to having discussions on what is the goal, what is the outcome of the session, what is the outcome of the entire engagement. So we go on to the outcome, the goal. We go on to exploring that. After that, we go to discover. Discover would mean you deep dive, you explore, you understand the who of the person, which we have discussed so many times. Who, understand the who of the person and not just the issue which is at the surface. And then you go on to designing actions, help co-create actions, and then review the progress. So we have been through this many times, and we've gone through each of these phases also in our earlier sessions. So now, what does it mean to be a coach? What is the mindset that the coach must have? So acknowledges that clients are responsible for their own choices. We discussed that in depth. Engages in ongoing learning and development as a coach. We discussed that. Develops an ongoing reflective practice to enhance one's coaching. Yes. So when we look at self-awareness, reflection is also an important aspect of self-awareness. It's only when we reflect on ourselves that we are actually becoming more self-aware. Remains aware of and open to the influence and the context of culture and self on others. Yes. So can we discuss a little on culture? So how is this important? Understanding the culture.
Yeah, it's very, very important, because culture, in terms of what you say, what you don't say, people may take it as an offense if you do not understand these sensitivities. So that's why we were trained while, we were trained while we were doing the body language exercises, which is actually one aspect. Other thing is be sensitive to what people you do not like. And that little study about the culture, the understanding is very essential to be a good coach.
Excellent, because we are going to have conversations where so much of sharing is going to be done. We are supposed to build a space of trust. We are supposed to build a safe space where they can. So unless we are sensitive to the other person, sensitive of what they will not like or what culturally is inappropriate, we will not be able to make any headway as coaches. Very, very true. Very correct. Anybody else?
Absolutely, because it's not only the actions that matters. The way we speak, certain words that we use in certain cultures,
excellent.
In certain culture, it is normal, whereas in some other culture, it turns out to be a completely different gestures for that matter. When we say like this, we use this to say excellent, but in some culture they'll say this is a 0. So we'll be saying super, whereas on the other side they will think it is as you're a complete zero, you know. So
absolutely,
right. So
absolutely.
gesture and the words.
Yes, absolutely. In some cultures, a man and woman handshaking is perfectly normal business, you know, like you can shake hands. But in some cultures, a handshake with a woman will not be appreciated. So it is important that we understand the culture of the Kochi that we are.
Not the head of Indian thing is a different culture actually.
Yes,
We used to
speak
say
a little louder.
Hello.
I cannot hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. See, even nodding the head itself, we used to say yes, no in the same manner.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to another country, normally the speakers Indians say yes, no kind of.
They say yes, yeah. Absolutely, that's right.
Not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
head in the horizontal direction, saying yes kind of. Okay. Actually,
you mean
vertically for the yes action, right? For an S, you have to nod in a vertical direction, not in a horizontal direction.
That's right. That's right.
So that is
yes.
In fact, I had one of my managers whom I worked with.
Yeah.
Between 2008 and 11. He used to get agitated and show his frustration if I say with interest of time or with the interest of team. He used to hate that word interest.
Okay.
So I had to become more conscious whenever he is there and use different words. Avoid using interest.
So why? What was upsetting him about interest?
He used to say, according to his belief, from a religious background, that word is bad.
Okay.
Like as you brought the point, it makes a big sense. I mean, it makes huge difference.
Okay. So he felt the word was bad and we are using a bad word.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's important that we understand. Absolutely. Okay. Shall we go ahead?
I would also like to add one thing.
Yeah.
Apart from being mindful, so that you avoid being obnoxious in your language and behavior, but you should also be tolerant towards the other's culture and their way of thinking and beliefs.
Yeah.
So the tolerant is also very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's you have to have a tolerant attitude and mindset that yes, everyone coexist.
Yes.
All beliefs and all ways of life and coexist.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. Absolutely. There should be harmony. There should be harmony. There should be respect. Absolutely. Yeah. So uses awareness of self. You build your self-awareness, build one's intuition, develops and maintains the ability to regulate one's emotions. We've discussed all of this. Mentally and emotionally.
Sushma madam.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you in between.
No. Yes.
We have been, Hemant has sent some of the information specifically on self-awareness.
Okay.
There are, it's a website where we do get to see, some questions and all.
Okay.
Test bar assessment. I might be wrong, but when I went through those, I could not find a test to take like we did for disk profile.
Okay.
But what was there is like a set of questions, a possible, the way how answer should be seen. Is that the invitation, or do we need to really take a test and come up with results?
Is that a question? I did not understand.
Yes. Okay. In case if you if you've seen last week, Hemant has sent some information. That is on self-awareness. Okay. So there are two parts to it. One says like test bar assessment. Go to myquestions.com or something like that. There's a website.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a set of questionnaires, but there was no test. So I just wanted to confirm the expectation.
Okay, so sometimes, some tests would be, they will give you, when you're taking a test means what? It is you're saying that on a score of something, or this is where you are on a scale. Now, when you are asking questions, it is a question for reflection.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. So that is how you reflect. You reflect and you introspect, you reflect to see, understand yourself through that question. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So mentally and emotionally prepares for the session. We've done that. Seeks help from outside sources when necessary. So you could, maybe you need a coach yourself. Okay. Or maybe there is a point in time when you're completely stressed and, you know, you require some therapy yourself if you're going through some very strenuous situation. So if need be, this is in a situation where you may need it, or you may need a mentor. So you seek help from outside resources whenever necessary that helps you build yourself. Okay. So the PCC markers, we just summarize what embodies a coaching mindset. Acknowledges that clients are responsible for their own choices. Engages in ongoing learning and development, develops an ongoing reflective practice to enhance one's coaching, that is self-awareness. Remains aware of and open to the influence of context and culture on self and others. Uses awareness of self and one's intuition to benefit clients. Develops and maintains the ability to regulate one's emotions, mentally and emotionally prepares for the session, and seeks help from outside sources when necessary.
Interesting addition to the core competencies, because it's generally not one of the coaching behaviors. It's about professional practice. So it's about me as a coach. It's about my role as a coach. It's about thinking about culture, my own and the client's culture, and seeing us, both of us, as being members of systems. It's also about doing the right thing. That's how I would encapsulate it.
Yes, doing the right thing. It reminds me of core competency number 1. But let's talk about the updated core competencies and how they related to the older core competencies. So maybe you could tell us, for those people who've been used to the core competencies that have existed for years, what's different? What's transitioned here?
There are some. So things like managing your own emotions, that now is in this competency. Things like using your intuition for the benefit of the client, that's now in this competency. So not a lot of number 2 is actually carried over from others. Some have been.
Thank you. That's great. Let's go forward into the next section, which is about, as a mentor coach, what does it look like when someone has really mastered this core competency? And then later we'll talk about when they maybe need some extra work on this one.
Lovely. So this is about the coach using their intuition, for example, but using their intuition for the benefit of the client. So I would, as a mentor coach, listen for examples of the phrasing of intuition, so it doesn't sound like a fact. I'd be listening for a request to tell me if I got it wrong, because it's only my intuition. So as a mentor coach, I'd listen for some kind of permission at the beginning, some permission seeking by the coach of the client. Another way I, as a mentor coach, would know that competency 2 is being met is if the coach was generally fairly level. So no big emotional moments. So no great outbursts of joy, no over commiseration, but being a coach, responding as opposed to reacting appropriately to what the coachee was saying.
Yeah, so it's important to recognize this one shows up more in the written portion of the assessment versus the tapes that are listened to by a mentor coach.
It does. So some things are really difficult to actually hear. for example, a commitment to ongoing learning, or having a reflective practice, and things like thinking of people as a system, or thinking of the client as being in a multitude of systems, as we all are, but also thinking of ourselves and our own systems and how our own context and culture influence us as coaches. That kind of thing is easier tested in something like the coach knowledge assessment rather than in a one-to-one dialogue. Another one that is another one which is new and which is also not visible in the moment is seeking help from appropriate resources. So referring people, for example, to someone in a sister practice, or someone who does a similar but different piece of work to us, like referring to a counsellor.
Yes, very important, and it might not show up in any one coaching session.
Yes, absolutely. And the other one, Brighton, is I often wonder about what about the coach seeking help themselves. So if I have a difficult client, how do I look after myself afterwards? So the question would be, what was it about that client that I thought was difficult? And is there some work that I need to do? Do I need to seek help or advice or support for me? So it's not only about the other person. This is the coaching mindset.
So you've already kind of covered what it looks like when someone's struggling with this, but I wonder, as a mentor coach, is there something more you can share about when someone needs some extra work on this core competency?
So if someone was treating their intuition as a fact, if they were not willing to let their intuition go, for example, if they were beginning to insist, if they were putting their words into the client's mouth and responding to what they think the client said, that, for example, would be an example of, I'd be very curious about what was going on for the coach there. Another one is being physically and mentally prepared for a coaching session. So for me personally, that means in the moments beforehand, don't quickly look at emails. Don't quickly send a text. Turn your phone off. Sit for a moment and get ready. Maybe check what the long-term outcome was, the long-term goal from the coaching. But take a moment, get ready, put the coach hat on. So sometimes as a mentor coach, it goes wrong when someone's flustered at the beginning, or they clearly have not got something that they need to have. So I often think that the first few minutes set the tone for the rest of the conversation. And so I'm really quite curious right at the beginning to ask myself, how is the coach doing? Is she settled in her role? Or is she now quickly entering the conversation because the coach is there?
Yes, and that applies to so many things. Like when I'm working with a coach on a video, am I struggling to find my pen right as I'm entering the room?
Well, yes. And another something I would be aware of, or something I'd be curious about, is where the coach says something which is clearly particular to a culture or to a context, and I see the coach nodding, but if I can see it, looking slightly confused, or the coach saying, oh, okay, but not picking it up and not saying, so what do you mean by that? Tell me a bit more about that. So it's it would be allowing something which sticks out to pass by, rather than asking for clarity, for example.
Great, Will. We're about wrapped up here. So is there anything you'd like to add for coaches about this core competency?
Ooh, thank you so much. So if you have a reflective practice, that means that afterwards you don't have another client straight afterwards. You need time to let it go. You need time to find yourself again, and you need some time to sit and think, so how was that? Not only how was that for me, but how was that from the coaching competency point of view? And how is that for the client? So this reflective practice, I think, is vital. Perhaps taking whatever pops up or becomes clear or emerges for me to my own supervisor. But to do some kind of closing ritual, just as I beforehand do some kind of opening ritual.
Yes, I love that idea of a reflective practice, especially when you're looking at internally at the coach and looking at the core competencies. It's wonderful for continuing learning.
Well, Brighton, ongoing learning is one of the sub-competencies for number 2, so you'll do well.